Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the NHL Weekly show here on the Ethernet Community Hockey channel here on YouTube. I almost said Ethernet Community Wrestling. Haven't done anything on that channel in a little while. Wish I could get back into that, though. But welcome, everybody, to another episode. We're in week 6 of... Let's fix something real quick. Okay. Week 6 of the 2022-2023 regular season of the NHL. Currently, it is November 19th. I haven't even looked at what time games start today because I did all the work last night at 1 in the morning so that I could sleep in a little bit and then not have to worry too much about freaking out, making sure everything gets done before the games start today on Saturday. But we can take a quick look if we do choose 1 p.m., which is currently right now, exactly 1 p.m. actually. New Jersey Devils and Ottawa Senators. New Jersey, we will be talking about. You can bet your bottom dollar that we will be talking about the New Jersey Devils today. And let's get right into it with the news. Now, this news portion has kind of become a quick update on everything that's going on with the channel before we get into the full episode. So if that is something that people want me to continue doing, calling it the news and not actually having it be news, being more updates on the channel, what's to come and all that kind of stuff, let me know. If you do actually want a news specific section, kind of just recapping everything that happened in the last week, I'm more than willing to do a little bit more research and get that stuff for you guys. Let me know in the comments. And one real quick thing I will say, I've been looking at what we in the YouTube sphere call the algorithm, and I'm really happy to say that we are doing some pretty good progress with the channel. I'm happy with it. Obviously not like exploding, going crazy or anything like that, which I wasn't really expecting anyways, so that's not something that I'm truly looking for, but just the fact that I'm seeing that people are actually watching the full episodes instead of, clicking on it for 30 seconds and then leaving, and all that kind of stuff makes me really happy to see that people are actually engaging in the videos. I will say that if you want anything specific, let me know in the comments for JMO episode ideas, extra stuff. I did add an extra statistic this week that we will be talking about later on. It was not suggested to me, but I figured it would be something fun to take a look at. And very interesting, I should say, there is a very interesting stat inside of that statistic that we will be taking a look at. But anyways, news for this week, it is very cold in Michigan. As you can tell by the last couple episodes, I literally was wearing 4 layers of clothes, a shirt, sweatshirt, jacket, and my Red Wings jersey over top of it the other day. Today, not going for a hat, going for the keeping the ears warm look today. So it's definitely another blizzard outside. I can't see directly outside. I can see the bottom 6 inches of outside the window. But other than that, everything is going pretty good. Obviously, I had some videos that were supposed to be going out 2 weeks ago, or last week, I should say. They did end up finally getting out the last 2 days, Thursday and Friday of this week. Go check those out. That would be the first 10 games of each defending Stanley Cup champion, and then looking at some other statistics inside of that for defending Stanley Cup champions going back to 05-06. That usually is a pretty decent time frame after the lockout in 05 to kind of jump in. And sorry, there's something really bugging me with this, and I don't know why this light is freaking out. But anyways, OCD going crazy. But But yeah, and then the other one is first 10 games of each team. It is funny though, not funny ha, but funny in a way that last night, Friday the 18th, I believe, was the 20th game for the LA Kings. So they are the first team to reach 20 games. And I will say that we are going to be doing a video every 10 games talking about those 10 games specifically. And then I believe what we're going to do is every quarter, or at the very least halfway through the season, we'll take a look at the full statistics. I might make the 10 games specific. So these first 20 games is exactly a quarter. 20.5 games is exactly a quarter of the season. But I digress. I will say that I wanna hear from you guys and see what you guys think of if you would like separate episodes for the full 20 games so far versus Matt putting that in with the 10 game block that we'll be doing episodes for. But I digress. With that, we're going to hop on over to our NHL Weekly stats thing, whatever this is. Hello, everybody. One thing that I will say, I don't know if I ever mentioned this, but I do have two cameras set up. One that is on my like, let's see, if I got this computer roughly around 2011 or 2012, so it's at the very least 10 years old. 10-year-old camera on a laptop doing as well as it can, and then this camera, a brand new one that I picked up a couple months ago. But as we can see, to my right, left, right, to whatever direction that is, we will see in this last week, the last week being any block, actually, I'll zoom in for just a second so that you guys can see what I talk about. There's these two here. These lines indicate a week. So week 1 was this for Anaheim. Week 2 were these four. Week 3, week 4, week 5, and then this last week, week 6. But I do try to make sure that we can see the full gambit in one sitting. Blue highlighted is blue highlights are win streaks, red highlights are losing streaks. Obviously, first 10 games, first 20 games, LA sitting there at 20 games. We do have two teams, the Winnipeg Jets, and there it is. The second one is Colorado. Colorado is 16 games, so they have another 5 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games to hit that 20 mark. As soon as the last team hits that mark, we will be getting into the quarter way through the season, stuff like that. Actually, one thing that I would like to do is, if I do it in 2 videos, I think I'll do updates on predictions, where everybody sits at quarter way through this the year with predictions wise. I have accumulated a couple people's predictions from other people that I watch here on YouTube for hockey, people that I would highly suggest. So if you have any questions on those, if you want to get a little deeper into stuff that I don't necessarily talk about, let me know and I can definitely recommend. So as you can see, the last week, not kind for some teams, while some other teams doing halfway decent. We'll talk about them in a bit. But if we take all these numbers here and put them into our very pretty little, sorry about the scrolling, very pretty little diagram thing here, we've got a couple teams here with 8 or 6 points. That was the highest. So 8 points for the St. Louis Blues, 4-0, and then a couple teams going 3-0. That being the Bruins, Predators, Devils, and Tampa Bay Lightning for this last week. Doing pretty good for themselves, I would say, this last week. And then we do have more than one team. We've got 2 teams this last week that went winless, 0-3 for both the Arizona Coyotes and the Buffalo Sabres. Buffalo Sabres were doing really, really well to start the season. Obviously, kind of had a drop off there. We'll keep it over here so we don't spoil the wild card. But if we take everybody, put them in their conference and division standings for accumulated, not just week 6, but week 1 through 6. We've got Boston, Toronto, and Tampa Bay at the top of the Atlantic. Detroit, Florida, Montreal, Buffalo, and Ottawa right behind them. Every team has now hit double digits, by the way. Last week we had a couple. If we scroll up to last week, we had 4 teams with less than 10 points. We now have each of the bottom 4 teams has at least 10 or at least 11 points, actually. So Boston 8 points ahead of the second place in the Atlantic, Toronto, and then Tampa Bay, Detroit, and Florida. Only 3 points between the 3 of them. Very, very tight race between those 4 teams. Montreal in it as well. Buffalo was in it and then had a couple unfortunate games. Detroit was beating Toronto actually for a couple weeks there. Tampa and Toronto were doing just as well as Detroit. Detroit had a rough week this last week. If we look, Detroit won 1-1. So if we move on to the Metropolitan Division, we've got New Jersey going on a tear of 11 games in a row. Wins, Carolina and New York Islanders, and then Rangers, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Washington, and Columbus. Washington flying off a cliff, just absolutely abysmal. If we look right up here, 1 point in 0-2-1 for this last week. Just really, really awful this last week, and that's what happens when you don't cross your T's and dot your I's as you plummet down the standings pretty fast. I mean, look at Buffalo; they were right in it, and then all of a sudden, they were not as in it, I will just say. If we go on to the Western Conference Central Division, Dallas, Winnipeg, Colorado, and then Nashville, St. Louis, Minnesota, Chicago, and Arizona. St. Louis, kind of a confusing start of the season for them. Couple wins, a bunch of losses, and a couple more wins in a row. They have not gone alternating for more than 2 games, wins and losses wise. So very strange season so far for St. Louis. Minnesota, also a very strange start to the season, not doing as well as everybody had predicted. Dallas and Winnipeg subverting all expectations so far this season. Nashville doing a lot better than some people might have predicted. I would say that Nashville, Winnipeg, and Dallas were pretty. I mean, 7th and 8th were Chicago and Arizona. The next 3, 4th, 5th, and 6th were tied between these 3, Colorado, St. Louis, and Minnesota being the ones that everybody predicted to be in the top 3 in the Central. Just goes to show how unpredictable the NHL is sometimes. Speaking of unpredictability, Vegas, LA, and Seattle, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, San Jose, and Anaheim finishing out the rest of the Pacific Division. Not a single person I saw had Seattle in third, especially not almost a quarter of the way through the season. A lot of people said pretty decent start to the season, but they're going to drop off. They haven't yet, so it's definitely not a fluke so far. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. Edmonton and Calgary just running into a cliff at some point. Edmonton really has to figure out what they're doing with, and we'll take a look at that in a little bit. We did talk about it last week, but we will talk about it again because it is always a topic for debate here in the stats and analytics side of everything when it comes to having multiple more than three, I believe, at least three people in the top 10 or top 25 for points on one team, and then to have a goalie or a goalie tandem that is so bad that they're not being as dominant as you think they would be. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to say anything negative to the naysayers saying that the McDavid hype is just that. It's just a hype, because as much as he is becoming or is like the best player going right now, it genuinely does not even matter at this point, because even if he scores 3 goals and gets 3 assists, they're still going to lose 7-6. So that's definitely a topic for debate that we could talk about in maybe a future JMO episode. Let me know if you'd be interested in that. San Jose and Anaheim repping California there at the bottom. Let's mash the divisions together to get our wild card positioning for Week 6. We got Boston, Toronto, Tampa, New Jersey, Carolina, and New York in those top 3 spots for the Atlantic and Metropolitan. In the wild card spot, we've got Detroit and New York Rangers tied with 20 points apiece. Florida with 19. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Montreal, and Washington all tied with 17. Buffalo with 14. Ottawa and Columbus, one of my dark horse picks, not repping my dark horse pick very well so far this season, for at the least to say. Holy crap. In the Western Conference, Dallas, Winnipeg, Colorado, Vegas, LA, and Seattle. In the tournament standings, how do you say that? I just completely blanked on how that the term for that. Wow. This is exactly why I only do one takes, is because I want you guys to be able to see this side of me as well as the other side, which the other side you don't even see as much as this side of me. This side of me you see almost 90% of the time. The other 10% of the time where I'm actually intellectual and smart, you don't get to see as much, but I digress. Edmonton and Nashville, 17 and 18 points apiece for the 2 wildcard spots. St. Louis, Calgary, Minnesota with 16, Chicago, Vancouver, San Jose with 15, Arizona with 13, and Anaheim with 11. Firmly at the bottom, which we will take a look at right now. You take those 2 divisions, all the wild card, everything, you smash them together, and you get our full 32 team rankings. We got Boston off the back of their winningest ways earlier in the season, even though we still are early in the season, at the top with 30 points. New Jersey technically surpassing Vegas, both with 28 points, but New Jersey with 17 games, Vegas with 18 games played, both with 28 points. Vegas being an overall very, very reliable, very safe pick. If you're gonna put money on somebody, it might as well be Vegas. If they're going up against literally anybody, they've beaten good teams, they've beaten bad teams. They've looked really, really good. They've only lost 3 games this season. I'd have to take I don't have to do anything. They've lost 4 games. I was just about to say I'll have to take a look at those. No, I don't. And then if you look at New Jersey, 11 in a row games that they've won. They've won 11 games in a row so far. So that means they were 3-3 to start the season, and then went on an 11-game win streak. So just shows you that you can have literally the most mediocre, the most 500 50-50 start, and then that doesn't that 6 games literally doesn't mean anything because you just explode and have an 11-game win streak. And I think they play tonight. I'm going to take a look real quick, if I may. Yeah, I I think they play tonight. They're playing right now against Ottawa. Duh. So Ottawa versus New Jersey. I'm not going to say it's a safe pick to go with New Jersey because anything can happen in the National Hockey League. But Ottawa, not a great team in the numbers. And New Jersey on an 11-game winning streak. I might go with New Jersey on that one. But anyways, we've got LA, Dallas filling out the rest of the top 5. At the bottom 5 here, we've got Buffalo, Ottawa, Arizona, Columbus, and Anaheim. And then obviously San Jose and Vancouver in the same division as Anaheim. So that division not pulling out any wins so far this season. If we take a look at the plus or minus when it comes to how the people are moving around, I don't really know the best way to. It's like the Super 16 if you follow NHL on like Instagram or social medias. They'll show like Detroit unranked last week might be in the Super 16 this week, so they were unranked or whatever and anything like that. But Boston and New Jersey both moving up 1 spot. So Vegas, who was number 1 last week, moving down 2 spots. We've got Tampa Bay moving up 8 spots, Nashville moving up 9 spots, St. Louis moving up 9 spots, and then we've got 2 teams, Buffalo and Arizona, both moving down 7 spots. Arizona, who, if I remember right, if we take a quick look, they won all 3 of their games last week, and then immediately turn around and lose all 3 of their games this week. If we take a look at one of the newer charts that we have, it is the last 10 games or the previous 10 games stats. We've got for week 6, we've got Boston with 18 points, 9-1. New Jersey in the last 10 games, obviously undefeated because they've got 11-game win streak. Ottawa, 16 points. 8-2, so it's really difficult to see with Ottawa the fact that they've been that number is backwards. I believe it's supposed to be 2 and 8 for 4 points. Ottawa is not. I knew there was something wrong with that. Ottawa not doing great, I should say. 2-8 in the last 10 games, but who is doing great, and I believe this information is correct. Seattle 7-2-1, Tampa Bay 7-2-1, 8-1-1 for Winnipeg, and 8-2-0 for Vegas. Teams not doing great in the last week. Obviously, we just spoke about these guys. Ottawa only 4 points. Buffalo and Calgary, shockingly, with Calgary with 6 points. Washington with only 7 points. Anaheim with only 8 points. Philadelphia as well, only with 8 points. If we take a quick look, Arizona on a losing streak. Sabres on a significant losing streak. Chicago, Minnesota, and Montreal, as well as Philadelphia and Washington, all on losing streaks, while we've got a bunch of winning streaks for Boston, Columbus, Nashville, obviously, New Jersey, St. Louis, and Tampa, as well as Vancouver, shockingly, and Winnipeg. Going over to our individual statistics for this week. Let me move down to our week this week. Holy crap, okay. If we go to goals first, we've got Connor McDavid with 15 goals so far this season in 17 games. We've got Bo Horvat, 14, on a team that's really, really struggling. It's very difficult to see Bo Horvat doing as well as he is. Andrei Svechnikov in Carolina, 12, as well as Tage Thompson for Buffalo with 12. Not a whole lot of movement this last week at the top, and then a couple in the middle here. We've got a couple unranked people jumping up this week. That would be JT Miller, Sidney Crosby, who was not ranked this last week, Nikita Kucherov, and Brock Nelson, also not in the top 25 this last week, jumping up. And then one thing that I did notice is that the stats website that I get stuff from, once people are tied in points or goals or assists or whatever the statistic is, they go by alphabetical order. Not the best way to do it. I would prefer that they did it a different way, but that's how they do it, and it would take me several hours to be able to sift through all of that information and reconfigure it. And it's unfortunately not something that I have the time to be able to do. Not because I'm so busy during the day, it's because between the end of the final game, an hour after the final game ends on Friday night, and when I film this on Saturday noonish or Saturday at 1 o'clock or whatever the time frame is, that is the only amount of time that I have to compile all of this information. Going on to assists, we've got McKinnon with 20, and then Barzal and Draisaitl with 19, couple people with 17. And then we've got a lot of movement with the rankings this week, and a bunch of people that were unranked this last week, Morgan Riley being the highest among them, then a bunch of other people with only Jason Robertson and Brandon Montour. That was going to be Montembeau for a second. Montour, the only two not moving this last week. For points, though, we do have a couple people that did not move. We got a lot of movement in the middle here, and then a couple newbies into the points for the top 25. We've got McDavid and Carlson, highest points getting defenseman is how I'll say it. 28 points apiece for the two of them. Pasternak and Robertson, Jason Robertson from Dallas, that should be a D. With 26, 25 points, Kucherov and Rantanen, and then we've got a bunch of people with, we got McKinnon here with 24, a bunch of people with 22, 21, and 20 points. And then McDavid, Pasternak, Kucherov, and Troy Terry were the only ones that did not move this last week. If we go to our goalie stats for this last week, not this last week specifically, for the last 6 weeks, Linus Ullmark still at, not still, but is at the top this week, has been in the top 10 a lot. The top 10 generally does not have a whole lot of newcomers. People do move around an awful lot, as you can see, but not a whole lot of newcomers, especially, if you look at other weeks, we've had 4 or 5, 5 in this week as well. And this week we only had 3 newcomers for both goals against average and saves percentage. Goals against average, less than 2 goals per game for Linus Ullmark for Boston. Very, very good. Everybody in this list is above a 2.41. Ilya Sorokin being the 10th ranked this week. And then Vegas continues to have 2 goalies in the top 10. Pretty sure it's been a while since there wasn't 2 Vegas goalies in the top 10. Very, very impressive for them. In the top 10, there are other teams that do have, or there are other goalies with at least 2 shutouts, but in the top 10, we've got Thompson and Hellebuck with 2 shutouts. Vanacek being the only unranked this week, and Martin Jones not moving. And then for save percentage, ranging from a 937 to a 923, we've got Linus Ullmark again at the top, and then Connor Hellebuck, Stuart Skinner, Jake Ottinger, Francouz, Hart, Sorokin, Thompson, Georgiev, and Spencer Knight. Georgiev and Francouz being the only two unranked. So goalies doing pretty good so far this season. I would say the goalie stats is not necessarily the one that I obviously I understand how the statistics works, but it's not one that I spend a whole lot of time trying to really meticulously figure out. Could be something that I do in the future, but for now that's something that's kind of a blind spot for me. If I do have any blind spots, that's where it would be. That being said, points for ranked up to week 6 this week. We've got 179 points for LA, Boston with 175, Vegas with 173, Dallas 169, nice, and Pittsburgh and Vancouver with 167. So even with the conversation we had about Edmonton and other teams that are known for scoring a lot. Edmonton 9th this last week so far, including this last week, in scoring. If we go down to they're 25th when it comes to points against, which means that they're letting in a lot. They're letting in a lot of goals. Winnipeg not doing a whole lot of letting in a lot of goals. And Boston, 96 and 97 points against, 35 and 36 goals against for Winnipeg and Boston. Really, 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 really good stats so far. Being that we're 6 weeks in and they have not breached 100 points is very, very impressive. Colorado, New Jersey, and Vegas rounding out the top 5. The best teams you're going to find that statistically wise, the best way to find your best teams statistically, again, I will say statistically wise, is looking at maybe the top 8 for both points for and points against, and seeing if there's any overlaps. So if we take our top 8, Toronto, Seattle, Carolina, Vegas, New Jersey, Colorado, Boston, and Winnipeg, and put it up against our top 8 here, you see New Jersey, Vegas, Boston, Dallas. I believe that's it for overlap. Those are going to be your teams that are statistically doing the best so far this season. And honestly, if you look at the standings, it's not something that you could really dispute at this point. And one more brand new stat that we're going to be taking a look at today is our plus or minus stats. Looking at the highest plus or minus ranking and the lowest plus or minus rankings from the 6 weeks so far. We've got Hampus Lindholm with a plus or minus score of 20 for Boston, and then a bunch of just a crazy amount of people from New Jersey in the top 25 for plus or minus scores. We've got a lot of people from Boston as well. We've got a lot of people from Dallas. So again, those really good teams are going to have a lot of people from their teams in the top 10 for or the top 25 for plus or minus ranking. This is the really interesting one that I was talking about earlier. This is not something that I thought I was going to find, but negative plus or minus scores. So the worst statistical players so far this season, we got Jordan Kyrou, Barat Hayton, and Alexander Ovechkin. With 17 points this season, he's a negative 13 in 19 games played. Not what I thought I was going to be finding by any means. Was going to be Washington Capitals captain Alexander Ovechkin, the greatest goal scorer of our generation. Generation that since Wayne Gretzky, at a -13. So he's on the ice for quite a lot of goals that are going in. And I mean, he is tied. He is tied for second technically, but I mean, you could say that he's been Hayton has been in less games. So I would say that he would be above Ovechkin just because that's how it works most of the time when it comes to statistics like this. But I digress. That was one that was a little interesting that I was not expecting. Let's move on back over here. Dang it, I keep forgetting to turn that off. Oh well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of this episode. We did talk quite a lot about a bunch of different stuff. So we are running a little over a half hour today. The last couple weeks we've been going almost like 20-25 minutes for some of them. So let me know in the comments down below, along with everything else that I want to know from you guys. JMO episodes that you would like to see, any other stats or analysis that you guys want me to do during this show. Anything that you guys have for criticisms or anything like that you want to share, as long as it's nice, or not nice but cordial, as well as letting me know if you want a longer form for this, adding that extra 5, 10, 15 minutes, however extra long it is, just to get more of my opinion and more of me talking to you guys instead of just spitting out facts for 20-25 minutes or whatever. But just let me know again if that's something that you're interested in, me talking. With that, I like to say like, share, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. That I was going to say more, but then I had a big old brain fart and now I can't remember what I was going to say. So what I'm going to do instead of saying more things is I'm going to let you guys go, because we are already at 37.5 minutes. So with that, I would like to say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.